Hello, my friends. 3 planet patterns are very, very fundamental to vibrational astrology. When 3 planets connect in the same vibration, it sets a basic theme in a person's life. We've been using this idea for decades in natal charts. We also use it with transits, but until very recently, we have not had a way to see which 3 planet configurations formed by the transits in the natal chart are the strongest and most powerful, the clearest, sharpest, loudest signal in the sky. And now we have a tool to help us with that. The timeline format, the astrosignature forecast, these other tools that I've made lots of videos about, they are wonderful and they do things that this new tool does not do. But this new tool for detecting what vibrations are standing out the strongest that are created between the transits and natal is really a fantastic new tool in our toolbox. So let's see how this thing works. Now first, to review the basic idea, 3 planets in a vibration sets a very important theme in the person's life. Let's look at it just for review in a natal chart. I've shown this many times before, but just for review, this is Buddy Holly, a fellow who was one of the original rock and roll people, helped set the momentum for rock and roll, and born back in 1936. And in his birth chart, Venus and Jupiter are quintile. They're 72 degrees from each other. And Uranus is opposition, the midpoint of Venus and Jupiter, making a biquintile 144 degree aspect to both Venus and Jupiter. So Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus are in 5 vibration, 1/5, 2/5, 2/5. Those are all fifths. We call that 5 vibration. And this describes Buddy Holly. It's like crazy. His upbeat, enthusiastic music and rhythm, it's so descriptive of him. And what we believe in vibrational astrology is that this is the fundamental force, astrological force, for why Buddy Holly is Buddy Holly as people know him. If that's true, this is really exciting because we've got a new insight into how astrology works, new relative to what people have been doing for 2,000 years. Yes, they've had ideas of Vargas and Vedic astrology, etc., but until this information, never as clearly defined and understood and confirmed with modern research methods. So, what if a transiting planet makes the same kind of 3 planet pattern? For example, imagine Buddy Holly only had the Venus biquintile Uranus. Jupiter is not here, but on a particular day, Jupiter transits here, completing this configuration. That would mean that on that particular day or period of time when Jupiter is within orb of being at that point, quintile to Venus, biquintile to Uranus, putting all 3 of them in 5 vibration, this bouncy mood would get into you just during that time period. Is it true? Yes, it's really very, very cool, and that's what we're going to see. I've also recently made videos on compatibility. This year 2023 is a big year for new tools in vibrational astrology, where I've made several videos on the new tools for seeing how charts interlock together in vibrations. And now we see this new tool for forecasting to see what vibrations are highlighted. So, as I have here on the bottom of this slide, what is the strongest pattern today? What planets are combining in transit and natal to make the clearest, loudest signal? That's what we can do now. And we're going to look at 2 examples. We're going to look at an example of a famous person, Donald Trump, because I happen to be making this video on what is today, June 13th, 2023. And later today, a major event is happening in Donald Trump's life. So we'll look at the transits for him. That's interesting. And there will be a series of videos on this. I don't know if it's going to be 2 or 3 videos, and I'll show you an example in my life for the current time. So that way you see an example of a public person, which we can all look at, and then how it works more privately in your own life or a client's life to see what it means and how we experience these things. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how to do this. I also want to mention that I've been working with this new tool for at least a year. It was released in the Sirius 4.0 software around the beginning of 2023 or end of 2022, but we had the feature working before it was debugged and made available with all the other new features. And over time, I've gotten a better sense of how to use this. So one of the nice things about this video is not only just show and tell, here's this feature, but also some tricks about how to use it. I fumbled around a little bit to get a sense of how you use this, and so this will save you some fumbling around. So, getting back to Donald Trump as one example of using this new insight into what vibrations are becoming conspicuous at a given time, here's a quote from a website, aljazeera.com. Quote, Donald Trump is set to make his first court appearance in a historic criminal case where he stands accused of hoarding top secret government documents and jeopardizing national security. The court case is today, on the day I'm making this, later today at 3 p.m. in Miami, Florida. So what is going on? And as you know, with my videos, if you've watched any of them, I avoid, characterizing people and, they're all good or they're all bad, and just focus on the energy. Whether you think Donald Trump is wonderful or horrible or whatever, I try to leave that out and just focus on what the energy is, what's going on. Okay, excuse me. So, what is the strongest 3-planet configuration in Donald Trump right now in the middle of June when this big court case is happening? What's going on? Well, let's use this new feature and I'll show you the settings that I use. So here it is. I'm in the Sirius software. I'm looking at Donald Trump's chart. So there's his chart, his birth chart. All you do is go to Forecast and go to Vibrational Astro Forecast Listings. This is the new feature that will pick out the major vibrations that are created between the transiting planets and the natal planets. So we click on it and we check the option for Transit-to-Natal. There's also an option, a selection for Transit-to-Transit. That's what's going on in the sky. That's also very cool. But in this video, this series of videos, I want to focus on Transit-to-Natal. Maybe no doubt at some point, I'll make a video on the Transit-to-Transit and how you can use that as well. And I ran it for this month, June 1st, starting June 1st, 2023, for 1 month. The trial happens to be in almost the middle of the month, June 13th, so we can see what's leading up to it and what's going on now and what's happening after. And here's the setting that I found works very nicely, is set the maximum orb to 4 degrees and the maximum number of days that the aspect is in orb, or the minimum number of days, to 14. So 4 and 14. What I found is that with this setting, there's typically anywhere from 0 to maybe 4 things going on every day. Sometimes nothing is happening. Typically there might be 1 or 2. Sometimes it can get up to 3 or 4. So this picks out only the vibrations, these vibrational patterns that are long-lasting. Long-lasting, we mean 2 weeks. Because when something lasts at least a week or 2, it really gets into your system. This is a basic idea in astrology. If something goes by in a few hours, just whoop, it goes by. If it reinforces a longer, deeper, more penetrating configuration, it can be more obvious. But, as adults, our moods don't change from minute to minute. They kind of gradually build up and grow on us. So when something lasts at least a week, it's really getting deep into your system. That's a an assumption of a lot of modern astrologers, also a lot of ancient people that use ancient methods, and it's the same assumption we use in vibrational astrology. So what this software does, this software feature, is it doesn't just assume outer planets are slower, because an inner planet can station. It's going to look at every 3-planet configuration, go back in time, go forward in time, see if it lasts at least the number of days you've selected. So it does it very precisely, and that's important, because if a faster planet stations and sits there, it really works on you. So it's going to do it beautifully, the right way, so to speak, to see exactly what's going on. So with this setting, 4 degrees is extremely tight. We allow a 16-degree orb in a vibration. 4 degrees means this is really tight, and that's the maximum spread of all 3 planets in that vibration. It has to be within 4 degrees. Last 2 weeks, not many of these things happen. The ones that happen are the biggest, the clearest, loudest signal coming into the person. So let's see what it is for Donald Trump. It comes up, it calculates it fairly quickly, considering all the calculations it's doing, calculating every 3-planet combination, seeing if it lasted at least 14 days within a 4-degree orb, because that's what I selected. Does it all pretty quickly, which is nice. And we see at the beginning of June, there's only one. There's one really loud, long-lasting signal. Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus. The N means natal, T means transit. It means that in 9 vibration, if you divide the circle into 9 pieces, natal Jupiter, transiting Neptune, and natal Uranus fall very precisely, almost exactly, because we allow only a 4-degree orb, it was our selection, right on those points, ninths of a circle. So transiting Neptune is activating natal Jupiter and Uranus in 9 vibe. And here it tells you what the maximum spread is, and we set that setting, I'll right click and show you again, 4 degrees. So none of these will exceed 4 because that's the setting we selected. It's going to go up to 4 degrees. And it's going to actually go up to exactly 4 degrees. 4 degrees, 0 minutes. And last at least 14 days. So there's that natal Jupiter transiting Neptune, natal Uranus. And here, if you're curious, is the exact details. Is that Jupiter and Neptune are in nearly exact 9 vibration. That means 0 degrees. And both of these, the Jupiter and the Neptune, that means natal Jupiter transiting Neptune, are 4 degrees from Uranus. So the Jupiter-Neptune is super strong, and Uranus is there with it. And as you go down, you see a few days later, Neptune has moved 1 degree away from Jupiter. Now it's only 3 degrees from Uranus. And here we are. Let's go down to June 13th. As we head towards June 13th, we see a second aspect come in on June 8th. There's a 64 vibration. Again, it's transiting Neptune. Transiting Neptune involved in 2 configurations. The first one with Jupiter and Uranus in 9 vibration. The second one with Mercury and Venus in 64 vibration. And when we get to June 13th, the day of the first day of the trials, there it is, they're both there. That means the big, long-lasting signals coming in, these vibrations, are these 2. Now, what I'm going to do later is narrow down from 14 days. We'll go down to 12, 10, 8. We'll see faster moving things that are targeting more specifically the day of the trial. But what I like to do is I like to see what big themes are going on, not just that day, but what's been building up for a week or so, and really on the person's mind, you might say, really in their system. And this is going to tell me what mood, what attitude, what frequency they're on, what's happening with them these deeper, long-lasting, very exact things, setting a strong pattern in the person's life. So what I do, again, set it to 4 and 14. I'm going to right-click and show it to you again. 4 maximum orb, 14 days. Very tight, very long-lasting. Then, if I'm interested in a specific time, like, say, June 13th for Donald Trump, then I can narrow down the orb. I can also look for weaker things by expanding the orb. But I like to focus on the really strong ones first, really loud and clear, to see what the biggest thing happening is. So there it is. If we scroll down to the end of the month, we see that this 9 and 64, they continue, and the 64 vibration ends on June 21st. So the June 22nd, it ends. On June 23rd, we're back to just the 9 vibration. So this 9 vibration is extremely long lasting, lasts all the way out to the end of the month. Later, I'll run this for a longer time period. But for now, let's just focus in on this court case. And we're seeing that the Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus is there for a very long time period. Towards the end of the month, Neptune has moved right in between Jupiter and Uranus. You see, it's Jupiter, then 2 degrees to Neptune, 2 degrees to Uranus. That's not so critically important. The main thing is what is going on, Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus. Now, I'm going to interpret this, but before I interpret it, I want to give you a little bit better idea of exactly what the heck is going on in the sky. So let's get a good insight into it. So back to my PowerPoint. What we're going to do is let's look at what's actually happening in the sky. This is just the actual planets in the sky, not a vibrational chart. There's Donald Trump's chart in the center ring, right? There it is. He's got 29 Leo 55 rising according to his time of birth, etc. That's his birth chart. Here are the transits at 3 p.m. in Miami, Florida on June 13th, 2023. That's where the planets are. What is happening? Well, this listing has already told us that natal Jupiter, and I've highlighted it here so you can see it, natal Jupiter, natal Uranus, and transiting Neptune are in 9 vibe. How are they in 9 vibe? Let's look at it. Uranus at 17 Gemini, Jupiter at 17 Libra. You know what that is? A trine. They're trine. Well, what does trine have to do with 9 vibe? Okay, let's look at Neptune. Neptune at 27 Pisces, natal Uranus at 17 Gemini. What is that? Doesn't appear to be anything. It's 80 degrees. It's almost exactly 80 degrees, which is 2/9 of a circle. Neptune is making a 2/9, some people call it a binovile aspect to Uranus, and it's 4/9 from natal Jupiter. 4/9 is 160 degrees. So you can think of a 1/3 is equal to 3/9, right? 1/3 is 3/9. And what's happening is you take the whole circle and you have 3/9, in other words, that 1/3 is 3/9, plus 2/9 plus 4/9 is the 9/9 of the whole circle. Natal Jupiter, natal Uranus, and transiting Neptune are in those 9ths of a circle. That may not seem very dramatic. You might say, well, big deal. There must be zillions of these things going on. Well, actually, there's only 2 going on that last a long time, 14 days, and are super exact, like within 4 degrees in the vibrational chart. We allow 16 degrees, but these are tight. And this is one of them. There's no way that without the software being able to pull out this information that you would ever find this or even realize how important it is. So this stands out. It's very interesting. If I'm just looking at this without knowing what that listing is telling me, I would think, yeah, that's important, but I wouldn't realize how important it is that it's lasting for 2 weeks almost exactly, and is the clearest, most dominant vibration coming through by the transits in terms of forming 3 planet vibrational patterns. So that's what's going on. By the way, I put another little thing over here, unrelated to this, I just happened to notice. It's Donald Trump's birthday tomorrow, June 14th. And in fact, it's within less than half a degree of the solar return. So sometime around, we can run the solar return, but I think somewhere around 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, time in Miami, is his exact solar return. When you're within a half a degree of your solar return, you shine. So that's going on. I'll talk more about that on the next slide. But anyway, the big theme going on during this period is this Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune. And here I mention I just happened to notice this Sun on Sun. What does that mean? If you have to be very tight, according to vibrational astrology. It can't be like 2 days before your birthday, 2 days after. And it's really not your birthday. It's the solar return time. If you're within a half a degree, that Sun to Sun conjunction, it shines a light on you. Here you are. Everybody's looking at you. Well, everybody's going to be looking at Donald Trump because of this court case. But the court case is going to get a huge amount of media attention. Now, some things with our predictions, we can, be more sure that they worked. This one, you might just say, well, of course it's going to get a lot of attention, regardless of his birthday. So we don't have what we call in research methods a good counterfactual. But in any case, it just means there's a light shining on him. He's going to get a lot of personal attention because of this court case. It's hard to evaluate the accuracy of that statement because you might say that it's going to get a lot of attention anyway. But the next thing I'm going to tell you about the transiting Neptune making 9 vibe to the Jupiter Uranus, that is a little more specific to this situation and wouldn't necessarily always occur. Now, another way that we can look at this Neptune Jupiter Uranus 9 vibe connection is to do the 9 vibe chart of the person, Donald Trump. That's his 9 vibe chart, or 9th harmonic chart, as people like to call it, in the center ring, and the 9 vibe transits in the outer ring. And because there's a Neptune Jupiter Uranus, they should be conjunct within 4 degrees, and they are. On the next slide, I will highlight it for you. There it is highlighted. And what's happening is that Jupiter and Uranus in the birth chart are just barely under 4 degrees. So it just barely meets the criterion for the transits. And Neptune is in between them. It's between Jupiter and Uranus at 8 degrees Pisces. Jupiter at 7, Uranus at 11. Once Jupiter retrogrades back, or before it reached here, before Jupiter, or it goes past Uranus, the whole thing will spread more than 4 degrees and it will be out of orb. So as long as all 3 of them in the vibrational chart are within the orb we selected, which is 4 degrees, exactly 4 degrees, and it lasts for the number of days we selected, 14 days, which means the program has to literally calculate this before and after birth and see if that's at least 14 days. And then it says, yes, this has lasted that long within that orb. That's what this feature does. Okay, so what's going to happen? Or what is already happening? What does it mean? Here's what it means. Donald Trump is going to be breezy and optimistic. He's not going to get easily flustered. He's going to handle this as if it was a walk in the park, rather than, as the news report said, historic event. He's just going to blow it off very easily. Now you might say that's what Donald Trump does anyway, whatever, but that's what the transits say. That Neptune, Jupiter, Uranus, the critics of Donald Trump are going to say the guy's delusional. I mean, what does he think's going on here? This is a serious matter, and he's just so positive and, like this is not good. His supporters are going to be very enthusiastic. So we will see if my prediction is correct. If you watched a lot of my videos, I like to make specific predictions, see if they're true. Of course, not all of them come true, but it's amazing how accurate they are. I mean, it's extraordinary. The vibrational astrology really works. Now, how do I come up with that interpretation? Because Jupiter-Uranus in Donald Trump's birth chart, it's actually a trine, is optimistic. It just sees the brighter side of things. It's enthusiastic. Donald Trump does display this kind of enthusiasm and positive approach. Do I want to characterize him as that's his personality? In vibrational astrology, the energies don't describe your personality. They describe ways in which you attune to life periodically. The better question from a vibrational astrology point of view is, does Donald Trump exhibit a positive, enthusiastic, upbeat style fairly often? Yes, he does. He does. He's less stodgy, less formal than a lot of politicians. He has this kind of upbeat sort of feeling. That's what I'm saying. Now, again, I don't think about whether I like Donald Trump or don't like Donald Trump when I'm doing the astrology. I'm just thinking about what is going on. Neptune activating that in 9 vibration means it becomes idealistic, visionary, very blown up. Jupiter-Neptune, very grandiose. And 9 vibrations connecting with the community. His supporters are going to love this. He just bonds and reaches out with this feeling. Now, it's not going to bond with people who think he's delusional, but it's going to bond with anybody who's reasonably receptive and interested in it, because that's what 9 vibe does. So that's what we learn. That's his general attitude, long-lasting throughout the entire rest of the month of June, and we can look at the future. I think it goes into July as well. Now, and we'll look at that later, the long term, see what's going on for the rest of the year. Now, let's look at the other thing. The vibrational forecast listing also showed transiting Neptune in 64 vibe with Mercury and Venus. This means that because 64 equals 8 times 8, you can take the numbers that make up a number, we call it the factoring, like 64 equals 8 times 8. It also equals, 16 times 4, etc. We'll just use 8 times 8. That means if you take one of those numbers and you make it the vibrational chart, the other one is the aspect. It just works out that way. So in the 8 vibration charts, they will make 8 vibration aspects because 64 is 8 times 8. So what we're going to do next is, we have it here on the slide already, this is Donald Trump's 8 vibration chart in the center, in the inner ring. The transits at the time that the court case begins in the outer ring, 8 vibration. We're looking at 8 vibration to 8 vibration. The next slide, I highlight it. There it is. What's happening is that in Donald Trump's 8 vibration chart, Mercury and Venus are in a 3/8 aspect. They're in an 8 vibration aspect in the 8 vibration chart. In other words, there's 64 vibration. And it's very, very exact. Transiting Neptune in the 8 vibration chart of the transits is exactly square natal Mercury. Actually, to the minute, we notice. 10 Pisces 52 is Neptune. 10 Gemini 52 is Mercury. Neptune's coming into a very tight square and very tight 3/8 aspect to the natal Venus. So transiting Neptune, natal Mercury, and natal Venus are vibrating to 64. What does that mean? It means that during this time period, in June, when this is happening, this Neptune, Mercury, Venus, it means that Donald Trump is very clever. He's very imaginative. He comes up with colorful images. His imagination is triggered. His ability to communicate in colorful or imaginative ways is very, very strong. He's able to capture people's imagination. He's able to tell a good story. So here he is telling a good story with this Neptune, Mercury, Venus, and bonding with his supporters with this breezy, optimistic style, and probably just saying, oh, they're on a witch hunt, whatever, and capturing people's imagination. So this is what I expect to happen. And this means he probably is going to actually gain some support. His supporters might feel, or probably will feel inspired. Like, yes, that's my man, Donald Trump. So I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I've predicted horrific things in the Ukraine war, etc. Terrible things happen. I'm not saying that it's good. Every time I make a prediction, somebody says, oh, you think that's so great? No. I'm just saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm also not saying it's bad. This is the energy. This is what will happen. So there you go. That's what's going on, and that's how we interpret it. Now, I'm at a half hour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here, do a second video in this series, and pick up with the next step of what we do in using this new tool for seeing what vibrations are strong. I like to keep these videos to about a half hour, and so I will pick up with the next phase of this analysis in the next video in this series. Thank you very much for listening, my friends. God bless. Namaste.